Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, retirement planning specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And today we're going to cover for you another episode of It's Not a Matter of If, but When. And we are on part 3 of our series. But of course, before we get started, let me introduce to you with us in the Worry-Free Studios here on this beautiful, actually it's a little dreary, January 10th, 2023, America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander. Good morning, Aaron.
Hey, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And how about you and your clan? I understand someone got a new gas range over at the Orander household.
Yeah.
Is Mama San happy?
Mama San is very happy. Our house it's an older house, and it already had the gas line and everything else like that. And we've been in that house for about 6 years now. And, Jessica has said for years, she's like, I would just love to have a gas stove. I would just love it. So thanks to Tony Walker Financial and Worry-Free Productions and everything else, I was able to kind of surprise her a little bit this year and got her a gas stove for Christmas.
Well, that's awesome. You sent a picture. It's like a brown, isn't it? Is it kind of a brown color or not?
No, it's not. No, there's brown around it. There's wood around it.
It's beautiful though. I love gas stoves. I don't think I could go back to electric.
You don't think you'll ever go back to electric?
No. Those eggs just don't boil quick enough for my deviled eggs. All right. So in case you're just now joining us, folks, for the last couple of weeks, we've been covering this topic. It's not a matter of if, but when. And speaking of that, before we get into today's show, Aaron, won't you tell them how they can go back and either watch or listen? We also have a television show called The Worry-Free Retirement. Catch past episodes, especially if they want to get caught up on the last 4 ingredients to this particular show we've been covering.
Sure, no problem. Folks, if you want to listen to past radio shows, it's really easy. All you got to do is go to soundcloud.com. That's soundcloud.com. And right there in the search bar, just type in the Worry-Free Retirement, click search, and there you go. You'll find all of our past radio shows. Now, you want to catch the TV show, you want to see these graphics and see what we're really talking about and really get into the meat of it, no problem. If you missed any episodes and you want to go back, not a problem. All you got to do is watch or go to youtube.com. That's youtube.com. And right there in the search bar, just type in Tony Walker Financial. Click search and you'll see Tony's smiling face. Click on there and you're going to find all of our video content.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. So let's kind of review the 8 wins. Again, if you're not real familiar with Tony Walker Financial, we do have several new radio stations on. This might be the first time you've listened to the Worry-Free Retirement. I am Tony Walker, owner of Tony Walker Financial. And coming up in June of 2023, I can't believe this, I will have been in this financial world 39 years. You're just barely older than that, aren't you, Aaron?
I am 42.
Okay, so you were 3 years old, I got in this business. That's crazy, isn't it? All right, so let's go over the 8 most frequent wins, not ifs, but wins that I see facing retirees that they've got to make decisions on. Number 1, and again, the first 4 we've already covered, but number 1 is when to take Social Security. Number 2, when to roll over your 401k to an independent fiduciary such as ourselves at Tony Walker Financial. Number 3, when to deal with that darn tax tumor. The tax tumor is the amount of money the government's got buried and locked inside your 401k that when you go to take out your money, they're going to be standing in line to grab their share first. Number 4, we've already covered, is when to start taking less risk. And today, actually, we're going to cover our next 2 wins. The first one, when to start spending your money. We're going to talk about that and why most people wait too long to enjoy their money. And then finally, probably one of my favorites, as you'll see in a minute, is when to seek a retirement planning specialist. So let's kind of jump right into it. If someone asked me, Tony, over your nearly 40 years of being in this business and I've met in person with over 15,000 savers, what is the one crucial mistake that savers make in retirement? And Aaron, I would have to say, really, it's without hesitation, the number one mistake savers make with their money in retirement is waiting too long to spend and enjoy their money. Now, why might that be? Why do you think, Aaron, most people that I meet wait too long to spend their money? What can happen as they get older?
Well, as they get older, they probably don't want to travel as much. They may be a little more frugal and, they may not, I know, not making fun of it, but seriously, sometimes you kind of lose your appetite as you get older. So a larger meal, you might go, I can make 2 or even 3 meals out of this. So you might, save on food in that way by saving money that way.
Yeah, so what happens, though, is the financial world, because that is true. We'll talk about the 3 halves of life in a minute, this theory that I have as I've watched people's lives play out. Incidentally, folks, we have over 3,000 clients at Tony Walker Financial, and the majority of those clients are over the age of 65. So a lot of people want to know, well, what's retirement look like, or how's all this going to shake out, Tony? Folks, I've witnessed this firsthand from many, many, many people who have not only retired, but I've watched their lives play out. I hate to say it, until death do us part. And again, all I can say, folks, is most people wait too long to spend and enjoy their money. So why is this? Well, my theory is, quite frankly, it's the financial world's fault. You see, you got to remember the financial world has a true conflict of interest in this thing called retirement planning. Because on the one hand, just like us, this show, for instance, is marketing our services, and we'd love to work with you if you're a saver and you have money to invest. That's how we get paid. That makes sense, doesn't it, Aaron?
Yeah.
I can't keep these doors open if people don't come in here with their 401ks and their savings and allow us to invest their money or to put it in various products such as life insurance, annuities, etc. We're going to get paid either a commission or a fee. Now, where we're different than I think most of the financial world is, we never, ever forget whose money this is and who butters our bread, and that's you. So if the goal of retirement planning is to save for retirement, the true goal of life when you get into retirement, here's my belief, and I call it the live well, die broke philosophy, is to use and enjoy this money before it's too late. Let me ask you something, Aaron. If you had $5 million of retirement, you worked hard all your life and you sacrificed whatever you had to do, and let's just say one day you have $5 million and you get to retirement and you don't have a plan to spend and enjoy it, and all you do is hoard the money.
It's mine, you understand? Mine, all mine!
All right? And eventually you die. You have to ask yourself, what was the whole point of that, right?
Right.
It'd almost be like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard of. Why would you work hard and save hard for a period of time when you're going to stop working and you don't spend your money? Is that making sense?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. So the reason is, folks, the financial world has you scared to death. Using terms like inflation, which we've already covered inflation. I know inflation's real, but bear with me. Using things like inflation, or you're going to live too long, or you could go in a nursing home one day, so don't spend your money. Or, gosh, I know the stock market's down, but it'll come back, so you can't spend your money because you got to wait for the money to come back or wait for the market to come back. Folks, this is crazy. So here's what I'm going to do. When I come back, I'm going to go over something called the 3 halves of life. I'm going to set the stage for why most of you need to have permission to spend and enjoy this money before it's too late. Stay tuned. I'm Tony Walker. You're listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. We'll be right back. Who can you trust? It's one of the most important decisions you'll have to make. Question is, are you ready? Well, we're here to help at Tony Walker Financial. You know, we care more about you than we do your money, and we have over 2,000 happy clients and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau to prove it. Rolling over a 401k, confused about Social Security, maybe you're afraid of running out of money. Learn how to use and enjoy and protect your hard-earned money. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started.
Hello there, this is Wes Walker with Tony Walker Financial. I'm Tony's nephew and one of the fiduciaries on staff, and wanted to take a moment to talk to you about bonds. It's something we've been running into quite a bit here lately as people have brought over portfolios with existing bonds and wondered, why are these bonds down? I thought they were supposed to be safe. So to just briefly explain with my 2 minutes here what a bond is essentially a loan that's made from a lender to a borrower, and that lender will pay a guaranteed interest rate on that bond for as long as the term exists. So let's take, for instance, if you had a 5-year bond paying 3%, and all of a sudden interest rates got raised, and the prevailing interest rate was now 5%, your old bond worth 3% would now be worth less because there's a newer, higher interest rate out there, and investors are willing to pay more for that bond. So what we've seen in 2022, the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates, dampening the value of existing bonds. And when we see those bonds come over to our firm, we have to make a decision on whether to sell those bonds or stay in them. That's why it's really important to get someone on your team who's a fiduciary who can help you make those decisions and design and implement a portfolio that might not have such a long-term bond exposure, but can also help you mitigate that risk and plan for it in retirement. Thanks, and have a great day.
Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Well, our employee spotlight today is none other than our own Jennifer Jaggers, and I want to welcome Jennifer to the program.
Thank you, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here.
And I know you and Heather made the trip from Bowling Green to our Louisville studios today. What's it like driving down here knowing this is what I do once a week, is driving the roads of I-65? How was the drive, by the way?
I admire you for that. As a road rage kind of girl, better you than me.
Well, we are excited to have you. And again, we just wanted you to share briefly. First of all, I like to call you JJ. That's your new nickname. But first of all, about your background in banking. You came to us recently, and we're so fortunate to have you. But tell the audience a little bit about your background.
Okay. I actually started off pretty much my career in banking. I've always been on the loan side of banking, so I was a loan processor for a long time. I enjoyed that. I thought now since being here, I really enjoy the research aspect of this job. I totally did not know anything about this financial world. So I have enjoyed thoroughly learning the other side of finances, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm.
And you've done such a wonderful job. Of course, we've had some changes at Tony Walker Financial. We're growing like crazy. But you started out servicing our annuity business and client services, and you're still doing some of that. But talk about your role in terms of administering and getting all the new annuity business issued, and how detailed that is, and how much business we're doing now to help these savers.
After you bring the file back to me, I get all of the client's personal information. I put that into whichever insurance agency that we are using for that annuity that they have chosen. I submit that information. I make sure all of their suitability, which is their financial information, is correct and accurate, so that those annuities will be submitted. And when we get that annuity finalized back in the office, I put together a neat little binder for you to deliver to them at their final appointment.
And I guess sometimes I probably need to have you more in meetings. You don't get to see this, but the way we organize everything and the way we present everything, what would you speak to that? I mean, just the involved, detailed process of getting the annuities, putting them in the binders. We have the last day planners. Can you speak to that a little bit, and how good you feel that, hey, we've got the mission accomplished. Here's your annuity. Here's how we work at Tony Walker Financial.
Those binders are amazing to me. It takes everything that they have, everything that they've purchased. It puts that in a nice little graph for them. You have their actual paper copies of their annuities placed into that binder. So everything's very organized for that if they need that in the future while you're sitting there with them going over that.
And then they know, too, they've got you. Now we got Mandy in the office, but they've got you to follow back up with service questions regarding those annuities.
Right. And anything as far as change of addresses, change of beneficiaries, anything that you need to change on that current annuity contract, we can get that taken care of.
Well, JJ, we appreciate your work so much. We're so happy to have you at Tony Walker Financial, and look forward to writing many more annuities and helping all these savers.
Thank you, Tony. Happy to be here.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. I am America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Ornder. And Tony, I've got our next TNT right here. This comes to us from Dave in Lexington, and he says, Tony, I heard you on the radio the other day say, other advisors say, Tony Walker Financial will just slap our money into annuities. Well, I've got a new one for you. An advisor the other day said, hey, all Tony Walker is going to tell you is what you want to hear, which sounds like a good idea to me. So what am I missing?
That is funny. I mean, what do you think about that, Aaron? If you went to somebody that's trying to help you, and hopefully they're an expert in their field, wouldn't you want to be told what you want to hear, or would you rather just be full of bad news and gloom and doom? And Aaron, I'm not going to lift your spirits here. Let me just really ruin your day today.
Well, I think the key word you said it is expert. You know, you want to go to somebody who knows what they're doing. I mean, you know, there's been plenty of people that might tell you, oh, the world's falling or whatever, or the sky is falling, but it's like, well, how do you know?
That's right. You know? So, yeah, that one tickled me because, yeah, folks, I admit there's a lot in this financial world. This financial world, again, I've been exposed to it nearly 40 years. It is huge. And there are a lot of things in the financial world, I'll admit, I don't know that much about. I'm going to admit that. It's a big old world. The problem is a lot of people in the financial world, advisors, a lot of entertainers on the radio, TV, they act like they know it all. So that's why years ago, roughly 20 years ago, I began focusing my efforts in the world of retirement planning. And more specifically, not working with investors and speculators. That's not who we're trying to help. We're trying to help savers, which are those people who are more concerned about the return of their money than on it. And as we're finding out, as we discuss this topic of it's not a matter of if but when, are the same savers that want permission to spend and enjoy their money. So let's talk about that. What did I realize as I watched people's lives play out, especially over the last 20 years, as I focused on this world of retirement planning and become known around the country as somebody that's very, very well recognized as having a lot of knowledge in retirement planning? Well, here it is. It's called the 3 halves of life. And in just like basketball or football, basically your life is broken up into 3 halves. You have the first half, halftime, and second half. Now, mainly, most of the people we work with are either at halftime or in the second half. Halftime is roughly about 55 years of age. You know, you've saved some money, you're getting near retirement, you realize, hey, I gotta stop what I'm doing here. I gotta go meet with somebody and make sure I have a game plan for this thing called retirement. And halftime is that period of time also, again, usually between 55 and 70. Aaron and I just talked about it in the last segment, where you really can use and enjoy your money. Most people have good health. They're running around seeing grandkids. They're traveling. They're wanting to do things. They're a little more adventuresome, spending more money. And then what happens is at some point, and it's different for different people, but at some point as you move through halftime, hopefully you make it through halftime, you're going to arrive at a point, what I call the second half, where you leave the locker room and you go into the second half of life and you go, you know what? I almost want to call this, Aaron, the been there, done that phase. I do represent a lot of companies and I win these little trips that, you know what? We've got these trips all the time coming up. You know when the last time I went on a company sponsored free trip was?
I've been with you 10 years. I don't know. It's been a few years.
Oh, it's been a bunch. Yeah. And I think easily. A lot of it is it's either not convenient, but I think me and my wife have said, you know what? We've been there, done that. We got grandkids now. Stella, our dog's getting older. We want to stay with her. We hate trying to board her. And it's just like, it's not a big deal anymore. So the second half, I'm not saying I'm at the second half, but second half kind of turns into that. And most people start spending less money. They just do. So what happens is you've got all this money stockpiled. You haven't dealt with taxes. You're still paying all these fees. Nobody's wanting you to spend the money from the financial world because they don't want you taking the money from them. That's how they make money on your money. I call that OPM, or other people's money. So in turn, what happens is time slips away. And then all of a sudden, Aaron, in my office yesterday, I had about 15 appointments yesterday in Louisville. I'm meeting with a 61-year-old widow who just lost her husband that was just 62. And it's all over. So there's this balance you have to lead, folks, where, yeah, you've got to protect your money. We can show you how to do that. You can't just run out of money. You've got to have certain investments in place. We can show you how to do that where you won't run out of money. But folks, you better have an advisor. You better have a game plan in place that allows you to enjoy and understand these three halves of life, which is what we do at Tony Walker Financial. Okay, let's keep moving now. All right, so let's move to our next win, and this is one that I think is the most important in retirement planning. This is our win number 6. Incidentally, next week we're going to be covering our final wins, number 7 and 8. But win number 6 is the following. Win to begin working with a, listen folks, retirement planning specialist. And a retirement planning specialist is defined as someone who is, first of all, a fiduciary, required by law to work in your best interest, and second of all, has the credentials and the experience to do retirement planning, which over time, Aaron, I think we're up to about 5,500 game plans that we've done, over 5,000 game plans that we've worked on. That's a lot of game plans.
You probably have seen it all, haven't you?
I've seen just about it all. So keeping in our theme with the three halves of life, what I thought we would do is kind of talk about the difference between where to invest and who to trust. So think about this, folks. Assuming you're still in the first half of life or maybe even at halftime, really it's always been about where to invest. That's what you've been taught. Let's take a 401k plan. I mean, when you think about it, a 401k plan, by the way, folks, is not a retirement plan. It's a savings plan for retirement. And there's a huge difference. So in a savings plan for retirement, when you're looking at your 401k, or what I like to call that financial sushi menu of all those different options of where to invest, that's all you're really available to, is where to invest your money. Do I put it in the 2020 fund? Do I put it in the S&P? Do I put it in fixed? See, that's just a bunch of wheres, where to invest my money. And even if you don't have a 401k, some of those wheres right now might be where to invest in a CD. Do I invest in an annuity? Do I put it in real estate? With inflation, am I supposed to run out and buy gold and silver, stocks, bonds? See, it just goes on and on and on. And while the where is very, very important to most people in the first half, what I've found is there's this transition people go through, and that's called halftime. Again, if you just missed the last segment, it's roughly when people become about 55, 60 years of age, and all of a sudden the where starts to change a little bit. Let me give you an example, Aaron. Let's say the average person has been younger, invested in a 401k, retirement was years away. You with me so far? Maybe your age.
Okay.
And let's just say you're okay with a little bit of risk because it's money for retirement. Retirement's 20 years off. Are you going to pay as much attention if the stock market's bouncing all over the place? If you're in your 40s?
If I'm in my 40s, probably not. I'm probably not checking it every 15 minutes or anything crazy like that.
Yeah, because, retirement's 15, 20 years off.
Right.
Okay. Now you fast forward and you're 60, Aaron. And let's say up until that point, you've had 100% of your money in the stock market. In your 401k, you're already shaking your head. You can't see in the magic.
Just you say you got 100% of money in your stock market, and it's like, oh, that right there, I'm like, well, no, I wouldn't do that. But I understand. For the purposes of this, go ahead.
Okay. So you're no longer 40, but you're 60, and you're trying to plan for retirement. If you don't move your money out of the stock market and you decide to retire, this happened in 2008, by the way, what could happen to your 401k?
Oh, it could go down, like you say all the time. It could, what's the joke we say? It could go down to a 201k, maybe a 01k. Who knows?
Yeah, so it seems it should be very intuitive and that just makes common sense, Tony. As I get closer to retirement, I've got to take less risk. Well, guess what? That's not the case. In fact, it's even more so that the financial world is talking even more about the where. It used to be, Aaron, they had something called the rule of 100. What you did, and we've talked about this before, but you take 100 minus your age. Let's say you're 60 again. And that means 40% of your money should be in the stock market. Okay. Then as you get older, so in other words, it gets less and less.
It gets less and less as you get older.
And here's the logic of Wall Street. Since the market has gone down a little bit and since people are living longer, they've changed that to the rule of 120, meaning you take 120 minus your age of 60, meaning you should have more money in stocks as you get older.
Oh, they want more money in the stock market. Why is that?
OPM, exactly. So let's kind of see what happens in this transition. So as you transition through halftime, and this is where we really bring our expertise as retirement planning specialists to the table. Folks, the majority of people I'm meeting with are already in second half of life, or they're at halftime getting ready to prepare for this thing called retirement. We're really, really good at this part of it, in this transition. So what happens is you have to change your mindset from always focused on the where is important, but the where is going to start changing a little bit. This is why so many people, as they approach retirement, start considering things like annuities. Now, again, we're not proposing you put 100% of your money in annuities. What we're saying is, if you're like Aaron, if you're saying, yeah, as I get older, I don't want to take all this risk or have to go back to work, you're going to have to find something very safe, which fixed annuities provide that safety. And secondly, you're going to have to hopefully provide something that provides something we call
mailbox money,
which only annuities can provide through guarantees. So the where is important. It starts to change, though. But let me ask you the most important question, Aaron. If you really thought about this, keep in mind you know nothing about retirement, okay? You're sitting there trying to figure out what to do with this 401k. It's always been about the where. It didn't really matter what the taxes were. It didn't matter how much you had to spend. Now, all of a sudden, you're approaching retirement. Do you think the where is the most important question you should ask yourself? Is there another question you probably ought to be thinking about?
I don't think you should really be worried about where it is. I think you should be worried about, who can you trust in this situation?
Very good. So that's where we come in, folks. So you've had this 401k. Let's say that's you out there. Maybe you're already retired. We run into people all the time who have former 401ks. They're retired and they're still sitting there with their money in the 401k. And I'll say, why didn't you move your money? And you know what they say, Aaron? Because I don't know who to trust with it. Make sense? We have people all the time. They'll come to us and they'll say, Tony, all right, I want to see this game plan you keep talking about. I want to hear about all these tax tumors I got to deal with. I want to look at all these fees I don't even know what I'm paying in my 401k. And I'll ask them, I'll say, why do you still have money at that former 401 employer in that same 401k plan? And they'll say the same thing. They'll say, well, Tony, granted, I don't have a retirement planning specialist like you, but at least I understand where the 401k is. So think about that, Aaron. If you've had money with, we'll call it Mutual Nairobi, they've managed your 401k, but at least they've had it for 20 or 30 years. That's the where, though, but at least you can trust them, right? Okay. I mean, they've done okay with it.
Right.
But you're moving into a different phase of life, folks. This is not what we call the accumulation phase. That's what you were doing in the first half. We're getting ready to try to figure out how to spend and enjoy this money, remember, before it's too late. So if that sounds like you right now, if you're sitting there saying, Tony, yeah, I'm that person. I'm at halftime. I'm approaching retirement. I don't have any sort of game plan. I'm worried to death about this risky stock market that I've been participating in. I keep hearing from all these annuity peddlers, and I don't know anything about annuities, and all they're wanting to do is put all my money in an annuity. And more importantly, I think I'm realizing I don't need a stockbroker. I don't need an annuity peddler. I don't need somebody that is a tax prepared and on the side pushing annuities. I need somebody that focuses 100% of their time on retirement planning. And folks, that's what we do. For years, I've done this, and I have, besides myself as a fiduciary, I have 3 salaried fiduciaries, all in our Bowling Green, Louisville, and Lexington, Kentucky offices. I have an additional 11 full-time people whose only job it is to service what we sell. And we are committed to helping savers worry less about money. And here's what's kind of cool about this. You might be sitting there saying, well, I'd like to learn more, Tony, about your organization. But besides just going to your website and TonyWalkerFinancial.com and YouTube channels, how can I learn more about your services? And I'll give you a really good one. It's called the 10-minute free fiduciary phone call, where you and I will talk by phone for about 10 minutes. Let me find out what's going on. And I'll tell you right up front if I think we can help you. And if we can help you, I can meet with you in person. That's right. The owner of the company can meet with you in person at our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So to take advantage of getting started with us, all you got to do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on that Let's Get Started button, or you can just give us a call at 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-WALK. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. We look forward to finishing it out. It's not a matter of if, but when next week with our final 2 wins. But between now and then, if all else fails, you be worry-free and make it a good one.